There we go. And welcome to Nerdrotic Podcast Presents, our Nerdrotic outing here of our first, actually, episode of iZombie recaps. And we're starting with season 3, and we're going to do episodes 1, 2, and 3. I am one of your hosts, Dennis Bithoulkas. I'm down in San Diego. And with me in San Francisco is...
Melissa Wagner in San Francisco.
Yes. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about us having our own podcast, Dennis.
Yeah, I know, really. I mean, and it's a good show too. I mean, it only took 2 seasons, to get this show on our podcast, but
Well, I've been watching it all along. So
me too.
I've been hoping that we would make some time for it. So I'm glad that a couple of other things puttered out and we could make time for what I think is probably the most fun show on right now.
Yeah, I actually was a big fan of the comic when it came out back in the early 2000s, I believe it was. And I actually got to meet Chris Robertson, the guy who wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually at WonderCon, one of the WonderCons in San Francisco. And of all things, I think it was at a Boom Studios party in their hotel room. It was very weird.
That sounds intimate.
It was. We were actually in the bathroom suite area, and we were talking about zombies.
I actually do have a few issues of this comic too, and I picked it up mainly because I just really like the artwork for it. I've always been a big fan of zombies growing up, but I have to say, like, I'm not a huge fan of most zombie things now. But I think it's because the special effects are so good that they are really creepy now. Where, back in the 80s, watching like, Evil Dead and Night of the Living Dead and things like that, it was campy and it was fun and it wasn't the least bit scary, really.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah, now it's really kind of uber realistic, like the Santa Clarita Diet, where you've got Drew Barrymore chomping on someone's hand.
I mean, that one was gross, but again, it wasn't like keeping me awake at night. Like some of the other, like the remakes of Night of the Living Dead and things like that. Like just the trailers will keep me awake at night.
But no, I agree with you. The artwork in this comic is actually really good too. That's Mike Allred, who went on. He's done quite a few things. He's done Marvel stuff like Fantastic Four and other works of art as well. And yeah, that actually kind of hooked me too in the comic.
Yeah, I love the way that they color them. The color schemes are always really cool.
Yeah, he also used to do Static X way back when, before this, and so I actually remember him from that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I digress. So we start off season 3. Yes, we're in season 3 now. We ended season 2 with the Max Rager party.
Massive Party / Massacre number 2 is going on. And so the first one was Heaven Just Got a Little Bit Smoother, and it picks up right after that massacre. So not to be confused with the first massacre, which was the boat party, right? This is
Exactly.
This is the second massacre, just to clarify which massacre we're talking about. And then we get an introduction of like a really cool new character, right? I don't remember seeing her before, but I guess she was, an old office person back at the morgue back in the day, which is Vivian Stoll.
Yeah, I don't remember her either, to tell you the truth. I honestly, she might have been a blink and you miss her character, and they just kind of brought her back.
Or that maybe they just insinuated it. I'll have to go back and check that out.
Yeah, it was very weird, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and where you said it's kind of she's now the head of a company that's kind of like Wolfram and Hart from the old Angel series, and you hit it dead on the nose. I think it's very Wolfram and Hart.
So Fillmore Graves is the wolf. Yes, Fillmore Graves is the Wolfram and Hart of the super fun iZombie show.
Yeah, and they're building a zombie army in Seattle. Because where else would you build it? You'd build it in Seattle.
Well, she has, figured out they figured out it's ground zero. And the whole premise for this one is that Liv is figuring out that there's a lot more zombies than she thought there were. And I think that seems to be because the population is growing.
Yeah.
It's still spreading like a contagion. And so I think that's what they said her job was, which she was sort of like what the contagious disease person, in charge of that position.
Yes. Yeah, she's supposed to be kind of tracking trends, I guess it was, to see how far it was going.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's fairly interesting. We start off with Major Lillywhite also being exonerated as being the killer, that serial killer,
The chaos killer.
the chaos killer. Yes, although he still gets a bad rep because he was portrayed in the press as the chaos killer, and of course he comes home to find his house trash, and that was always kind of bad. Him and Ravi, they live together, so their house is trashed on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he can't get a job anywhere. So what does he do? He ends up joining Fillmore Graves as a
Fillmore
mercenary.
Graves Security Division. So they're
Yes.
building an army, and you know and you're kind of left with wondering, like, okay, what is the purpose of this army? And then what Liv's a little bit distracted in that first one. She's super bummed out because she basically, when they found all the victims of the chaos killer and were trying to free them under cover of the big party that turned into a massacre, she ends up having to save Clyde by shooting her own boyfriend.
Yes, because he went full on Romero zombie. So for those of you who haven't watched the show before, um, you can become a zombie by either a bite, a scratch, or having sex with a zombie. Exchange of fluids.
Yeah, so it's a sexually communicated zombie disease.
Yes, it
Could
is.
be. It could be. That's a possibility.
And you have different kinds of zombies as well. So if you have brains, if you eat brains pretty much right after you turn into a zombie, you retain your whole faculties. But and the other thing is too, if you eat a fresh brain, you feel better, of course, and then you also end up taking on the personality traits sometimes of the person that you ate, as well as getting flashes of their memories.
Right. So what I've been explaining this to people when I'm trying to convince them that this is the greatest show and they should totally be watching it, so we can talk about it, is I say, so what we have is we have really sort of cute zombies. So Liv was, super preppy and a doctor and worked in a hospital and had the perfect fiance and had this very idealistic life, and goes on her girls' night out, and she gets contaminated at the boat party, which is the first massacre. And the whole thing is, it's like, if you eat right away, so if you don't go through any starvation process, it's sort of like, oxygen to your brain. So if you eat right away, you retain more of your humanity. And the further you get away from that, you lose a little bit of it. So I think there's probably a lot of like medium brain zombies too, or you get to that Romero stage. Is
Yes,
that the way it works?
the Romero stage is basically when you've been starved enough that you lose all your humanity and you actually start to decay as well.
Mm-hmm.
Since we found out that basically when you've been turned into a zombie, that's when you've died. Your body has actually died. It's just being artificially kept in that stasis of when you die. But if you get shot in the head or something like that, and a medical examiner looks at your body and say you've been a zombie for a year, it will show that you've been dead for a year. That's how long your tissue will show you've been decayed. It's kind of an interesting little process. The Romero zombies, though, on the other hand, they have like, what you've seen in the movies, George Romero, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, that kind of thing, where they're kind of rotting a little bit and they're just going after brains. And they're mindless. And
right.
That's what you become.
So Liv, she's fortunate enough to feed right away. And so all she does is she goes home, right? And she breaks up with her perfect fiance because, she's a zombie.
Exactly.
So we kind of figure this out on our own. And she gets herself transferred down to the morgue. But then she has a comrade there in Ravi, because Ravi knows what she is right away, which I always thought was really curious, because he's like, because like, you're a zombie, right? And she's like, how did you know that? So when I'm trying to get people into watching this show, I'm always like, it's really fun because she's a zombie, but she's not, like, well, zombie.
Yeah. It's kind of also like the old show True Calling, where they're trying to solve murder mysteries by she takes on the personality of all these different people that die, and by
And
eating their
memories.
brains and their memories and trying to solve a crime, because she actually is partnered now with a cop as well. Clive Babineau is his name. And Clive didn't know she was a zombie. He just thought she was a clairvoyant for the first 2 seasons. And at the very end of season 2, he becomes made aware that zombies exist. And it pretty much almost tears his world apart there.
You know, and I love that they've sort of combined this with like murder mysteries, because you know that's what it gives. Like each episode has sort of its own mystery wrapped in there. So, and I love when they have like the overall, you know, task of the season, right? And then
Yeah.
you have something that makes it interesting episodically too.
And by the way, the whole zombie apocalypse thing, or the whole zombie virus, if you will, came about from an energy drink called Max Rage.
Max Rager.
Yeah, it's the chemicals involved in the Max Rager. It was a designer drug that was put into it, and too much of it can turn you into a zombie.
Right, right. Well, that's what they're saying. I think it was in combination with something else, but that seems to be what Vivian Stoll is trying to get to the root of where this came from. And you know, as she's going sort of through all the motions and trying to figure it out, it's like, you know, are they going to trust her and come clean with her, or they don't trust her? So we get into a little bit of season, let's see, in that first one, Heaven Just Got a Little Bit Smoother. That's the one though where Clive runs into an old friend, or is that Zombie Knows Best?
It was actually the first one.
It was the first one.
Yeah, Heaven Got a Little Bit Smoother. And yeah, he runs into a kid that he knew that used to live across the hall from him, and his mom and her brother, and they're all zombies. They're actually all living at Fillmore Graves. And
In their housing facility. It's like McDonald
yes.
House or something, right? They have
Yeah.
school for the kids, and it's like they're zombie kids, and they're one big happy family.
Yeah. And it's very odd. And Clive ends up getting called in on a family massacre, and it turns out to be the kid, the mom, and her brother. They're all shot in the head. And the brother has Max Rager cans stuffed in his pockets. And so obviously someone knew who these zombies, you know, that they were zombies, and targeted them because of this.
Right.
And that's what...
And a shot to the head is one of the only things that can kill them, besides like what actually taking off the head.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. In usual zombie fashion.
Exactly. Yeah. And of course, this brings about all this credence as to why Fillmore Graves exists, because they know that at some point in time, the Z, as they call it, the Z date of when humans find out that zombies actually exist, humans are going to want to fight back and kill all the zombies that exist.
Right, right. And this is if you watched True Blood at all, right? Was a big premise for True Blood, because it was like all the vampires coming out of the closet, and you have the people who are like, oh, we can just coexist, and then you have, you know, the vampires that don't want to play nice. I'm sure we're going to have some of those types of zombies as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of nuances throughout this entire show, and also there's a lot of comedy to it too. There's,
oh my god, so
tons.
funny,
Yes.
funny. Episode 2 had me laughing so hard I was crying.
Well, I mean, besides the name Fillmore Graves, you know, the company, we also have the title character Liv. Her last name is Liv Moore. So we've got that little pun there. Her ex-fiance, who's also a zombie now, is Major Lillywhite. Which is just a very odd name, and also funny in its own right. And at the beginning of every, when you come back from commercial, they take great pride in doing puns off of old 80s tunes and as the titles. So, and I can't pull one off the top of my head at the moment, but it's always fun reading what they've done. And they use Mike Allred's artwork as well.
Yeah,
really nice.
The music in this has actually been really good.
Yeah.
The ballads and stuff that they throw in there are just such a great addition to the comedy.
Yeah, at the end of season 1, when Major Lillywhite actually goes on a zombie killing spree to Dirk Hamersar, I can't listen to Dirk Hamersar now without thinking of zombie kills.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a really good scene.
So, and then we get to Zombie Knows Best, which is episode 2 of season 3. on iZombie, the funnest show ever. And on this one, we have the double homicide that needs to be solved of a father and daughter, right?
Yeah, they get hit by they're in their little car, their little compact car that gets pretty much totaled by a big, it looks like a big rig or a truck or something like that. They both die in it. And the really messed up thing about this is that Liv, she has access to the brains first, and she's making chili. And she makes chili of both the daughter's brains. And that's the other thing too, is they mix up the brains into whatever food that they want at the time. And zombies, by the way, can't taste anything human food wise.
Right.
Like
Doesn't
alcohol
have any, it's bland. It doesn't have any flavor.
They use a lot of hot sauce, like super hot sauce. They're high on the Schofield range, and that's the only thing they can actually taste.
Right. So they end up making a lot of really spicy dishes like Indian food and chili and tacos and things like that. And what's really great about this, unlike Santa Clarita Diet, where you were super grossed out every time she was eating, right? They actually go through all of the motions of cooking a meal where it's almost curated in a way that one of the chef challenge shows would be, right? Like
Exactly.
they show like we're sauteing, we're saucing, we're spicing this now, like give it a stir, put it in the Cuisinart. It's like, right? It's like Top Chef, zombie style.
Like when she was making the chili of the two brains. I mean, she made 2 pots of chili, one for the dad's brain and one for the daughter's brain. And she eats the dad's brain, and she leaves the daughter's brain for Major to eat because as she puts it.
And her reason, her reasoning was so good. It's like, I've already been like a teenage girl for like 7 years. So yeah, I'm not pulling that one.
Yeah. She goes, so it's all you.
Which I was like, oh, that was so rude. But, first come, first serve.
Yeah. And it's so funny. I mean, Major completely acts like a teenage girl, including, like girlfriend problems and, do I look fat in this?
The locker room scene.
The locker room scene alone. Oh my God. He keeps taking pictures, like selfies of himself, and he's like, you gotta remind you.
I can't stop taking selfies and listening to Demi Lovato.
And this is the way they solve mysteries, by the way, because they get flashes of what each person whose brains they've eaten might have a specific clue, like something will set them off and they'll remember something. So they remembered that the daughter had actually taken a picture of something or had something on her phone that was incriminating, and the father saw it, and it leads them down the path to find out who actually killed them.
Right. Like all the evidence is on the phone.
Exactly.
So one of my other favorite characters about this, who's been on for a long time, is he was Sark from Alias, right? That actor who played Sark is on here as Blaine, and Blaine was a super duper bad guy for season 1 and 2, but was given a cure for his zombieism accidentally, and he now has amnesia and doesn't remember that he's a terrible person / zombie.
He's a drug dealer, a murderer, you name it, he's done it.
A thief, an extortionist, and a businessman.
Yeah, and a pimp too.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yes. So he's all kinds of bad there, and Ravi, the medical examiner, is actually another thing we should say is Major Lillywhite was a zombie. He took the cure, a different kind of cure, the one that wasn't perfected yet, became normal, and then found out that if he didn't go back to being a zombie, he was going to go full on Romero zombie. So Liv scratched him again. He's back to being a zombie, but he's on borrowed time at the moment, and he's going to become a Romero zombie fairly soon. And Ravi,
I thought it was just that he's just going to die because he's getting almost like pneumonia type symptoms, right?
That's right. Yeah,
he's just degrading. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Ravi has developed this formula that supposedly is going to reverse the mind wiping effects of the cure that he's found, which he only has 17 doses of, because they don't have any more of the Max Rager ingredient, the main designer drug. They don't have access to it anymore. Again, these are all plot points from from the last 2 seasons. Like I said, it's very dense when you think about it, when you get into it, and it's just a lot of story.
Yeah, so it might be something that's hard to just pick up in the middle, but you probably would still like it. But you know what? It's a pretty easy show to watch. I would think that
Yeah.
it'd be a good one. And since we're only at the very beginning of season 3, and the seasons aren't super long, it wouldn't be that difficult to catch up.
Yeah, it's a mid-season replacement. It's usually, it's coming in now in April is when it started. So definitely easy to catch up on. I think it's only like 13 episodes, something like that, per season. And
Right.
I'm trying to think of anything else that might be pertinent. I
Well,
think we covered.
we could cover. Let me go over a little bit of romantic plot twists here,
Sure.
which is
Yes.
so Ravi is in love with Liv's best friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who was the assistant district attorney.
Still
And
is.
yes, and she is kind of seeing Blaine, but she still really loves Ravi.
Well,
But
yeah, we
he's,
never
yeah,
knew. Yeah.
right. And then don't forget, Major is the fiance that Liv broke up with in the
Yes.
first place. So even though she had that other boyfriend that she had to shoot because, he was a really bad drooly zombie, she's been able to sort of maintain a friendship and almost get back together with Major, but, they keep going back and forth and having really shitty timing, and now he is dying.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. He did have the puppy dog eyes. I did
Oh
see the
my
puppy dog eyes.
God. The best puppy dog eyes ever.
So maybe we should talk about tonight's episode, or I should say this week's episode.
So Eat, Pray, Live.
Eat, Pray, Live. Live, Liv, by the way, her name. And I think Prey was Prey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it
So
was.
I will say that my takeaway from this number 3, where it's like you have your memories that it brings back, so being part of the security detail at Fillmore Graves, Major Lily White is given their food supplement, which is, so they don't have these trippy brains all the time, and they're not at, it's sort of like going all over the place and adopting weird personality disorders of whoever they've eaten that week. They sort of do this mashup of brain, so it's a little bit more static, and they put it in these tubes and feed it to them like Go-Gurts.
Yes. They're pureed brains.
Yeah. And, I have to say, Indigo one time had one of these Go-Gurts and it exploded in his lunch bag and became a science experiment. So every time I see a Go-Gurt, I'm just like, disgusting. Because yogurt's already like, fermenty, right?
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
true. You get your culture in there. So,
Right. So it's already growing. So
yes.
so they get these gross sort of food supplement things, and Major makes a new friend at work, and his new friend at work was the DJ at the boat party / Massacre 1.
Yes.
And well,
And
that's a fun character to bring in.
and he invites him in and invites him home and says, "Hey, have you ever had the real stuff, real brains?" And the guy's like, "No," So
All the cool kids are doing it.
yep, all the cool kids, which makes you wonder if he was the DJ at the party, he had to have real brains at some point, not just the pureed stuff. So it's kind of weird,
So you think that maybe he's not being 100% truthful in what's going on?
Or all this stuff might have been set up even further along than maybe the zombie timeline started even further back than we think it did.
Possibly.
So yeah, so it could be that they already had the pureed brains in place to begin with.
Right. So maybe Vivian Stoll trying to figure out who Ground Zero zombie was. He could have also been could have been on the Max Rager campus already.
Yes.
He could be, they could have had ones that they were starving and ones that they weren't starving, because these, brain tubes haven't just come out of nowhere. Like, they didn't invent that in like the last 5 days. Like, they've had this supplement for quite some time, it seems like.
At least a year, obviously, since
Right,
he's
right. And
DJ.
Vivian Stoll is trying to figure out who this Ground Zero is, right? And she tracked somebody who was on a plane Do you know who was on the plane? I can't remember if somebody got
I
on a plane. Was it?
Yeah, they just said a woman that was on. They said a plane fell out of the sky in Colorado, crash. The black box said that there was nothing wrong with the plane. One of the women in the plane had brain contents in her stomach, fresh brains, and all they know is they tracked it back to Seattle, and that she was at a day before or 2 days before. That's all they left it at.
Right.
And
So we don't know who that person was.
we don't know.
Or
So
if,
there's
or
different
even if it's
people.
even important, or if that's just what brought them back to that point.
Yeah, I think that's what it did. It was just supposed to lead back so that Robbie could throw her off the scent. By saying, no, I didn't see anybody with any brains in their stomach when I.
Right. And it's like, I kind of feel like Robbie throwing her off is like, I feel like that's going to backfire on them. Like, she could probably be getting some bit of information that actually might help them at some point. Remember how Wolfram and Hart was like that too? You could never really figure out if they were actually helpful, because every once in a while they would be, and they would really come through. And then sometimes they would seem like, the typical evil corporation.
Actually, I think you're confusing two different people there.
What do you mean?
Because the woman that was with Ravi in there, excuse me, I had just a little fly buzz by me there, is actually with the CDC, and isn't the person with Fillmore Graves.
Okay. Do they just look a lot alike?
They look a lot alike, yes.
Okay.
And so Vivian Stoll is
the head of Fillmore Graves.
The head of Fillmore Graves.
Or is Vivian?
And then the other woman, and I'm sorry, I'm looking at IMDb at the moment.
Yes, no, dude, look at it. Because I feel like, so Vivian Stoll, we're sure she's with Fillmore Graves, and then this other person, so that's what I was talking about. She was the CDC woman used to work in the morgue, right?
Yes. Okay. And actually, no, she just came in. See, I'm not finding her.
She was insinuating that she was Robbie's boss.
No, she's just asking him how long he's been there. Since he's been there since the massacre, but he was saying I was further down the food chain. And she was, I take that back. She had been working in the Seattle morgue, but they never met each other. Okay.
Well, that does clear that up.
Yeah. And that's why we end up having her sleep with Robbie.
Whoops. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
when,
right when Peyton's ready to get back together with him, too.
Yeah, especially when the doctor said, hey, I want to come back to my place. I want to bounce something off of you. As soon as she said that, that's where my mind went, unfortunately. So,
or fortunately,
yeah. Because the look on Robbie's face,
that wasn't subtle.
No, it wasn't subtle at all. It was far from subtle. But sorry, I'm actually having problems. There we go.
So
problems actually finding the
I love that. So Major Lily White invites his friend, who's the DJ. Did you catch his name? She does introduce him. So Liv comes home, and the boys are doing Zumba in the living room.
Yes, Justin is his name.
Yes. And I like it. She's like, and again, the music is so good. Like, it really is. Like, they're just like, we're just zombies having fun and like having Zumba TV party in the living room. And she jumps in there and he gives the really good puppy dog eyes. So you see, like, Major's still really into her, and he is the best guy. He's just so unconditional.
So Caddy Cups is the name of the doctor.
Oh, Caddy Cups?
Yes, that's her name, is Caddy Cups. Which is very odd. But yeah, she's the CDC doctor who ends up sleeping with Ravi. And yes, she's
not a zombie.
She is not a zombie. She doesn't know about zombies. She's actually just tracking back this epidemic that she's seen of people with brains in their stomach that also have really dead tissue. That's the other thing too, is the woman that was dead in the crash.
Yes.
Said had died 6 months previously. And that's why they were kind of tracking everything back. and Ravi's playing really stupid about it and kind of throwing her off the trail. And I think, yes, it is going to bite him in the ass, because all Caddy Cups needs to do is take a look at the autopsy results, the records, and I think she's going to start finding that Ravi's been lying about what he found.
Right. You know what? They never touch on Major dyeing or tanning. Does he never? I feel like he's never been like super zombie, like where he doesn't have like the white hair and everything.
Well, you see that white line at the top of his head a couple of times, and so yeah, I think they just kind of assumed that the tannin dye.
The tannin dye. I guess that was something they touched on a little bit at the beginning of the season when Clive ran across his friends, and a lot more in season 1. Like, spray tans, that business has just really exploded in Seattle.
Well, also, we never revisited what happened with Liv's brother and her mother. They kind of disappeared off the map too after season, what was the beginning of season 2.
Right. Because there was the explosion at Meet Cute, which was Blaine's business, right? Where he had the butcher shop, and you could order in your specialty items like brains.
Exactly. Astronaut brains.
Any kind of brains you want.
Yeah.
You just order it up like a pizza.
And then also zombie hookers too.
Oh boy. I think I've seen that movie.
I think there was, yes. I think there have been a couple zombie hooker movies.
So yeah, I'm super like interested to see where this goes with Major being sick. Blaine has been given cure number 2.
Yes, for the amnesia.
Right. Peyton and Robbie are super broken up now after she catches him sleeping with the CDC woman, Caddy Cups.
Caddy Cups.
And that's where we leave off for number 3.
Blaine's father.
Oh yeah. Back from the dead. Back from the dead.
Well, he was part of the Chaos Killer kill, supposedly. So basically what was going on was that Major Lillywhite was being framed by Max Rager, and he was supposed to go around and kill every single person that was on this list of zombies. And instead what he was doing was he was tranquilizing them, putting them in freezers in a storage unit, and going to wake them up at a later date once he took down Max Rager. So people were starting to call him the Chaos Killer because there was no rhyme or reason as to the victims that were, victims, quote unquote.
But they were all zombies.
And one of them was Blaine's, the woman that Blaine had forced into prostitution, who was a zombie named Natalie. Right. And that is what Major Lillywhite, who he's looking for, because he promised her that he would free her. And she disappeared after the whole Max Rager party. And we found out that in this episode that one of Blaine's old customers probably has her captive, holding her captive.
Which customer is that?
I don't know. That'll be kind of interesting to find out.
Right. And one of the other people that got thawed out from the freezer is Blaine's father.
Yes.
Right. And, the way that Major runs over to Blaine's all the time, they're bound to run into each other at some point, right?
Exactly. They have to at some point. And considering that Major was the one who took Blaine's father and put him on ice.
Well, he took a lot of zombies and put them on ice because he knew that Ravi was working on the cure.
Yeah.
Right. So he thought it was going to be something that like maybe these people can actually get helped at some point. And, not all the zombies were bad. There was like, the zombie dad that really made him sort of rethink that.
Yep. So I think we've caught everyone up on that part of the season.
Yeah, like you said, it's really dense. There's a lot of complex stuff going on. A lot of it's really simple, a lot of it's really fun, and you get stuff that gets wrapped up each time. But we are in season 3, and there's a little bit of background for everyone now.
Yeah, definitely. And it's going to be interesting. I didn't see the preview for next week. Did you see a preview for next week at all, or no?
I did not, but I will be able to catch it on my CW app and the clips when it comes up.
Yes, me too. That's what I've been watching on the CW app as well. This is on Tuesday nights, I believe at 8:00. So, give it a chance. It's really good. It's a lot of fun. One of my favorite. Oh, that was the other thing too. Is the head of Max Rager was Steven Weber from Wings, and he just played a really good asshole. It was really funny. And his daughter in the show, who becomes a zombie as well. When they find the zombie holding tank, one of the jokes that made me laugh the hardest was there's a punch code, like a key code, to open up the doors to release the zombies that they've caught. And Major's like, "What is the code?" He's trying to get the code out of Stephen Wright's daughter there, and she goes, "Okay, I'll give it to you. 8675309. What can I say? Daddy likes the classics."
Terrible. I mean, that's just like, you know what? You love your corny stuff, Dennis.
I do. It was really bad, I have to admit, but I was dying. I would probably rewind that about 3 or 4 times because it just made me laugh that hard.
Okay, it's super fun. Check it out.
Exactly.
iZombie on CW.
So a little bit of paperwork here. You can follow us on Twitter at Nerdrotics. You can also follow us on Facebook at Nerdrotic Podcast. You can follow us on our webpage, nerdrotic.com, excuse me. You can also follow us on Instagram at Nerdrotic. Melissa has a excuse me, a Twitter account. It's at Agent Bossy Boots. I have a Twitter account at DeForce. We have a Twitter account for the podcast at Nerdrotic. And we have also one of our other podcasters, John Reed. He's at John Reed 16. And we are also on YouTube. You can look at Erotic Podcast. And where else are we at? We're on Instagram. I already said that.
Yeah, I think
iTunes.
We want to watch the iTunes and make sure to leave comments and get involved for our giveaways. Yes.
Like us, comment. Yes, we do give away giveaways. If you comment on there, we're putting together boxes. We already sent out a first shipment a couple of months ago, I believe the beginning of this year. And we're getting ready to do the same thing again. So like us, comment on us, follow us on our website, follow us on Facebook, follow us on iTunes, on YouTube, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, and I'll definitely be posting about giveaways on our Instagram coming up weekly.
All right, and I think that kind of covers everything that we've got to offer you guys.
All right.
With that said,
close it out?
I'll close it out. Sure. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out, America.
All right. And resistance is futile.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
All right. And we're still on the live channel, but Gary just needs to.
What do I have to hit?
Button. I don't know. I've never been on that end.
Hold on.